Hello, everybody. Kirk Spano, and I'm here to talk to you about Ametis. This is Kirk's take on stocks. Today, Ametis, AMTX. This is a stock that we've been trading for about 3 years now, 3.5 years, and we've made some good money on a couple of the trades, and it's really just kind of languished down here for a long period of time. When a stock languishes, when it drifts down, when there's a heavy short interest, when it just can't seem to break out, people get frustrated and they sell. A lot of people have been starting to sell for tax loss reasons, and they're too late. As I mentioned recently, tax loss selling should not be the last 2 months of the year. Institutional investors are done with their tax loss selling usually at the end of October. Why? They don't run on the calendar year, right? They have a different type of year. So the odds of tax loss selling being smart in the next month or two, usually not. Usually you want to do your tax loss selling over the summer before things roll over in what is often a third quarter correction. So second quarter tax loss selling is usually the way to go. All right, so Ametis, doesn't this company just suck? Aren't they a dumpster fire? Aren't they horrible? Their stock hasn't gone up, so they must suck. Well, sometimes it's not the company's fault that their stock price doesn't go up. Sometimes it's government policy being way behind the curve or slow. Two things have been going on with Ametas. First off, under the Biden administration, they did all the biofuel and ethanol tax breaks and regulatory things that were supposed to be very good for the biofuel producers. They never wrote the rules on 45Z. Trump is just finishing that up, but maybe he's still finishing it up a year from now. Who knows? So the government made promises, and so far they haven't manifested. Same thing in California. The LCFS tax credits still not really moving. And we know that these things are law, but you got to write the regulations and you got to let the market do what the market does. And so we've had bad federal follow through on policy. We've had bad follow through on California policy on biofuels. And how many of you are aware of what's going on in India? Somebody tell me in 3 words or 2, what's going on in India? Have you done the reading? What do we always have to do when we make an investment? Do the reading, right? Has anybody done the reading on what's going on in India? Nah, not the IPO. No. What would affect Universal Biofuels, which is a subsidiary of Ametas in India, the largest biodiesel refinery in India? What would affect them right now? So you should all be ashamed of yourself. Completely ashamed of yourself. There's a Supreme Court case going on right now. Supreme Court case. So the Modi administration is trying to get biodiesel to be 5% of the diesel blend there. And right now it's less than 0.5%. And while they have really generated a lot of gains in ethanol, in fact, they're 5 years ahead of schedule on increasing the amount of ethanol, they're way behind on the biodiesel, which is what Ametis does over there. Largest biodiesel refinery out there, 80 million gallons a year capacity. And it's about to be 100 million in the next quarter or two, all paid for from the cash flows of that debt-free refinery. So right now there's a Supreme Court case because the OMCs haven't been buying as much biodiesel as by law they are supposed to. And one of the regulatory bodies out there keeps giving the OMCs, right? That's their, I don't even know what it stands for anymore. Oil management company, maybe something like that, giving them waivers. And the waivers are illegal. But the Modi administration, much like the Trump administration, laws are a little bit bendable, right? So they haven't been enforcing their own policy. So they're getting sued by the Biodiesel Association of India. And the Biodiesel Association of India is looking for 4 things. A penalty, right, on the OMCs for not buying enough biodiesel. They're trying to get a pricing mechanism reinstituted that's been ignored. So there is a specific pricing mechanism that's required under law that was adopted as part of the Modi reforms that they just aren't enforcing. And in lieu of the OMCs not ordering the full capacity of the biodiesel refiners want to be able to export their biodiesel. The Supreme Court has indicated they're going to rule in favor of the Biodiesel Association. They required the government to have an answer to a briefing to a hearing in September by October. We presume that that answer has been sent and the court is deciding what to do. The likelihood is that by January or sooner, that the waivers granted to the OMCs have to expire and that they can't issue any more waivers, that the OMCs have to order as much biodiesel as they're required to by law, which they haven't been doing. And if that isn't going to soak up the entire productive capacity of what the biodiesel refiners can do, they would be able to export that. Where Aemetis is in Kakinda, very easy to export to the rest of Asia. So one way or another, either Aemetis sells all their biodiesel to India or some of it to India and then exports the rest. That is the likely outcome. It doesn't mean that it will happen. It just means that it's likely. So you have a string of government policies promised in law that either the regulations haven't been written or things haven't been enforced. That's been going on for 4 years now in both places, in all places, in the United States, in California, in India. So the know-nothings, Aemetis sucks, it doesn't go up. They don't know what the zuck they're talking about. Or if they do, they won't. If they know this, they won't tell you. At some point, this all resolves. I don't know if it's this quarter or next quarter. They have their earnings in a couple of days. The price of everything that Ametas sells can go up 30, 40, 50% quickly if all these things resolve. The tax credits in the United States can double to triple the margins. And suddenly you could have a company in the refinery space that has better than healthcare margins, not quite software margins, but pretty good margins, 30, 40%. Refiners usually work on single-digit margins. Look how big Marathon Petroleum's gotten on single-digit margins. Why do you think big oil wants all this to happen? And why do you think that they want the carbon capture? These are all things that on their own are low-margin businesses, but with tax incentives are very high-margin businesses, which means who gets paid? Shareholders a little bit, but who really gets paid when there's more money in the system, more money changing hands? Who really gets paid? Do I have to be ashamed of you twice in one call? When there's a lot, exactly, Tom, executives. It needs to be in your base fundamental thought process that executives skim money out of the system, all right? And they control the market for executives and executive compensation. You, the shareholder, have seen your rights eroded on executive compensation for decades, since the 80s. And the country club, golf course, your boat or my boat, incestuous relationship between executives that sit on each other's boards and vote each other raises is obscene, and it's the worst in the United States. Now, there are places like Russia and Saudi Arabia where they don't even bother with boards. They just are like, we're God and we can have the money. But in the United States, our executives have captured so much cash flow, Elon Musk, that what actually flows to the shareholders is dramatically reduced, Zaslav. If that is not ingrained in your head, that that's what's been going on and continues to going on, and people just don't want it to change because, but that's the free market working. Bullshit. Zuck off. That is not the free market working. That is called capture. It's the actual term. It's captured. So we'll see how this all plays out. But as far as Ametis goes, 45Z is very important in the United States. They're in the final stages of getting that all put together. They already qualify. Just got to know what the formula is so that they can sell off some of the credits, the companies that need them, and then put the cash in the bank, pay down debt. The LCFS credit in California, it's important to Gavin Newsom's legacy, and especially when he runs for president, because he's gonna. I wish he wouldn't, but he's going to. I just don't think a California person is highly likely to win. I think it was part of the Kamala problem. I mean, not only are they not talking about immigration and inflation, but it's a California thing too. And I love California. I have nothing bad to say about California, really. I mean, it's just like anywhere else in the country with their problems. But in general, I think California's been a good leader for the country. And I just think that there's lots of people who, look at what happens in California. Dude, look what happens in Milwaukee or Chicago or Mississippi or Missouri. It's everywhere, right? There's problems everywhere. So as 45Z and LCFS resolve, which seem to be in the eighth or ninth inning, as the Supreme Court case in India on the biodiesel resolves, which seems to be in the eighth or ninth inning, those are all catalysts. And remember, Ametas still has all the deals in their pocket from the airlines that have done letters of intent to build Riverbank as a biodiesel / sustainable aviation fuel refinery. They have all kinds of land for doing other things, for leasing it out or having complementary businesses. The renewable natural gas is producing free cash flow. I think we're going to get good news on that on Thursday. And the wild card is the carbon capture. If carbon capture is a thing, if that really is a thing, and the Trump administration isn't getting rid of it, and certainly the Democrats wouldn't. So if carbon capture comes to fruition in the next several years, big oil is going to make a lot of money on that. Any company with a lot of reservoirs is going to make a lot of money on that. And Ametis is going to make a lot of money on that because they have the only approved carbon capture facility in California right now. And there might be one other, but I think that theirs is the only one. So the catalysts for Ametis are through the roof, just one after another. Oh, and by the way, yeah, they're going to IPO the refinery in India at some point. Maybe they talk about that on Thursday. All these things are things that you should have on a sheet of paper, potential things that can go well for Ametis. That's one side. The other side of the ledger is this. None of it happens. They go bankrupt. They don't even need all of it to happen to stay as a going concern because the natural gas business is pretty good. And the ethanol business has been doing better. They are on the verge of profitability. It'll take very little to push them into profitability and to a point where they have the cash flow to, build the new refinery, and they have other tax credits for that. All the things with the Ametis that I've been saying remain true, and now they're closer to happening. And that's all I got to say about that. I am very long Ametis. It's 10% of my portfolio right now. And it was more, but, price is down. I might buy more.